Another update on the amazing U.S. prison system.
This is not The Onion, by the way. I feel like I should preface that with almost every story we cover these days.
A lot of our stories seem Onion-esque, which I used to work for, so I should know.
I should know. So,
read it for yourselves.
For those who aren't watching this and are listening and are just on pins and needles wondering what fucked up thing I'm about to share now, I quote, "An inhumane proposed Massachusetts bill would allow prisoners to trade organs for reduced sentences."
And I don't think they mean musical instruments.
Well, that'd be pretty fucking cool. Were they like whittling in there? No, literally, prisoners. This bill hasn't been passed. It's been brought forward as a potential, and anywhere from 60 days to 365 days if the individual donates bone marrow or organs.
I just need to sit in silence. I have no response.
The politicians behind the bill say that the legislation would lead, quote, wait for it, it would, quote, restore bodily autonomy to incarcerated folks. I feel like, you know what, like as a woman, and the topic of bodily autonomy is very important to me. I feel like what's standing between me and the true nirvana of bodily autonomy is my ability to trade my liver for 2 months
for a pack of cigarettes. Yeah, I love how they try and make these things seem somehow woke. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they put something in the bill where it's like, and black prisoners who give away their organs get double time off.
Well, and of course, this is, as I mentioned, being the fact being that the majority of incarcerated folks are non-white. Someone brought up the point, and I like the way that they phrased this, such a nice way of phrasing it, quote, "It could be perceived as harvesting organs from black people to give to others, which could be a question of exploitation." It could be.
It's kind of like how Louisiana was indifferent to whether people should be allowed to leave the prisons. They were indifferent.
Yeah.
They weren't kidnapping them, fucking imprisoning them when their time is up.
So, I mean, there's
could be perceived.
There's just all of the things.
Can you please read that again?
Yes. It could be perceived as harvesting organs from black people to give to others, which could be a question of exploitation. Could be.
Again, can everyone just let that sit? Just stop and think about that for a second. Jesus.
So, yeah. So basically, there's everything wrong with this, right? Also, the fact that that people in prison tend to not be healthy because they're fucking in cages, and so going through the process of donating bone marrow or giving up a fucking organ could very likely kill you, because these are not low risk or no risk operations or
right
to begin with, even if it were somebody who has like a great bill of health. But then you take somebody who has spent I don't know how many years or time in a fucking cage, and nobody suggests that living in prison is good for you. And so then you push these people to go under the knife so that they can get out of these cages earlier, and there's not going to be any repercussions to their health. Not to mention, what are the organs that you're harvesting looking like? I mean, are like, would this even be, just to be a fucking morbid asshole for a second, are you even getting good organs, or are you just stealing organs from incarcerated folks because you have nothing better to do on a fucking Tuesday? And so,
quote of the day.
Like, this is so, and also I mean, sometimes I wish I could be a fly on the wall, just so like hear human beings talking about this like they're fucking serious. Who was the asshole that decided it was between 60 days and 365 days? And what is a kidney worth? How many days is that worth? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then, of course, another aspect, again, all of this is fucked, but another aspect that is totally fucked is part of the issue if you're going to be an organ donor, and I have a friend who needs an organ, and so I've learned more about this recently. There has to be a long process of making sure that people have the right medical history, making sure that that everyone's transparent about what's expected, what could happen. Which, I don't know, I feel like nobody ever tells the truth to incarcerated folks. Everyone, I mean, so the idea that they get to sit down with a doctor who would be totally honest and forthright with them.
The U.S. has a history of doing medical tests on incarcerated folks against their will or lying to them about what's happening. Of course, the Tuskegee syphilis testing, the MK Ultra. It's horrific what's done to the people in our prisons against their will. And as you mentioned, they don't get good health care there to begin with. John Kiriakou, the former CIA officer who's now very anti-CIA, but he spent time in prison for revealing our torture program, the existence of the U.S. torture program. And he said that while he was in there, he had a lot of tooth pain and he went to the prison dentist. And the prison dentist looked in his mouth and said, "Oh, wow, you clearly come from some money because you have fillings and things, like your teeth have been looked after." He goes, "Well, in that case, I'll fill this cavity." He goes, "Normally what we do is we just take the tooth out because these are prisoners. They don't matter. They haven't had good dental work maybe previously in their life. So fuck it. Just not rip the teeth out." Like, it's inhumane, insanity, and it's yet again just how a system works where everything is about profit. There is no care for humanity. It is a spiritual void that just complete, vacant, dark abyss in the spiritual center of this society.
Wow. Powerfully put.
Okay.
I was just going to say that there is, because of our fucked up healthcare system, there is a crisis in this country with regards to transplants. There are over 100,000 people waiting for a transplant. 17 people a day in the U.S. die on the waiting list. So there is a dire shortage of organs. This is not how you address that shortage.
Yeah.
Obviously, how you initially address that shortage is to actually have a healthcare system that puts more importance on preventative care so that you have fewer people who end up needing fucking organs because they've actually had access to healthcare before their organs shut down. But also this, the quote about harvesting organs from Black folks, non-white people actually have an even harder time getting access to organs that they need. And I just wanted to share this one number. In 2020, for example, the number of transplants performed on white people was 47.6% of the number waiting. For Black people, that was 27.7% of people waiting.
So that probably comes down to... That probably comes down to various levels of systemic racism, right? Either the hospitals deciding that Black people's lives matter less, or also sometimes, it's been proven that Black people often get poor care in hospitals because the doctors ignore their complaints because there is a subconscious racism of like, well, a Black person doesn't really know what they're talking about. But then on top of that, you have a lot of Black people that are afraid to question the doctor because they've been told that maybe questioning authority in that situation is wrong. And, the most famous example of this, I think nowadays, is that Serena Williams said after giving birth, she was, I can't remember exactly what was wrong with her, but she was complaining about something and the doctor said, "Oh, no, it's not a big deal." And she had to keep complaining and finally insisted and then they did what was needed that ultimately saved her life.
And that's Serena Williams.
And that's Serena Williams. That's one of the richest, most famous people on the planet.